I have a question for you.
Okay.
And I don't want the right answer.
Uh-huh.
Not the polite answer or, the answer you'd give if your mother was in the room.
Uh-huh.
I want the honest, gut check, nobody is listening answer.
Okay. I'm strapped in. Lay it on me.
Would you rather be sexy or rich?
Wow. We're going right for the jugular in the first 10 seconds, huh?
It's a serious question. Well, okay, maybe it's a provocative question.
A little bit.
But it is literally the opening gambit of the material we're diving into today. And the author, he argues that if you really pressed people, hook them up to a polygraph, the vast majority would choose sexy.
That sounds, on the surface, that sounds absurd.
Right.
Everyone says they want to be rich. Everybody wants financial freedom. But then when you peel back the layers of how we actually behave with our money, I think the author's absolutely right.
Okay, explain that. Because sexy in this context doesn't mean, six-pack abs or being on the cover of a magazine.
No, although that's definitely part of the psychology of it all, that validation. But in the financial world, sexy is the cocktail party conversation. It's telling your friends you got in on GameStop at the bottom.
Right.
It's arguing about whether Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin. It's debating the microscopic, the tiniest differences between two different index funds.
It's the action. It feels active.
It feels active. It feels smart. It's flashy. It's conversational currency.
And rich.
Building real wealth. It is. It's agonizingly boring.
So unsexy.
Deeply unsexy. It's automated. It's invisible. It's checking your account maybe once a month and seeing the numbers went up and then going back to watching Netflix.
Yeah,
it's the difference between being a cowboy and being
an actuary.
An actuary, exactly.
And that tension, that pull between wanting to be interesting versus the desire to actually have money. That's really the engine of today's deep dive.
It is.
We are tearing apart the second edition of Ramit Sethi's absolute juggernaut of a book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
And we have to address the elephant in the room right away.
The title.
The title. I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
It's so bad.
It sounds like a scam. It just does. It sounds like a 3.0 AM infomercial hosted by a guy with way too much hair gel standing in front of a rented Lamborghini.
It really does. I remember seeing it on bookshelf years and years ago and just thinking, okay, sure, buddy.
Right.
Is there a pyramid scheme sign-up sheet in the back? It just screams internet marketer.
It screams it. But that is the ultimate irony. The book is actually the antidote to the scam. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about building a boring, reliable, automated infrastructure for your life so that you never have to worry about money again. It's about moving from playing defense to playing offense.
I love that distinction. Defense versus offense. Because if you look at the data, or even just, talking to my friends, it feels like 90% of us are playing defense.
Oh, at least.
We're dodging overdraft fees. We're stressing about whether we can afford the appetizer when we go out.
Right.
We're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if we'll ever retire. That's all defense.
Defense is reactive. It's completely anxiety-driven. It's waiting for the bill to arrive and then, that little jolt of panic.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to flip the board. We are going to walk through Sethi's system to automate the pain away. We're going to talk about the psychology that keeps us poor, how to weaponize, yes, he uses that word, weaponize credit cards.
Which is a fun idea.
How to beat the banks at their own predatory game, and how to start investing even if you think you're totally broke.
And the end goal here, it isn't just a number. It's not, I want $1 million in the bank. It's what Sethi calls a rich life. And I think this is a concept we really need to chew on before we get into the nuts and bolts, because rich, for most of us, it means Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold coins.
It does in the cartoons, for sure. But in reality, Sethi argues that rich is, it's highly subjective. And we are trained by society, by Instagram, by movies, whatever, to think rich means a yacht in the Mediterranean and a diamond-encrusted watch.
Which, let's be fair, that sounds nice. I wouldn't say no to the yacht.
And it's fine. If that's your thing, great. But for most people, that's not actually what brings them joy.
Right.
Sethi says you have to define your rich life. For one person, a rich life is the ability to pick up the check for their parents whenever they go out to dinner. No questions asked.
That's a big one. I hear that one a lot. The parental provider flex.
For someone else, it might be working 4 days a week instead of 5, even if it means a slightly lower salary.
The time freedom.
Time freedom. For another, it might be buying a $7 latte every single morning and not feeling a single shred of guilt about it.
See, that's the one that gets people. The infamous latte factor.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many financial gurus, I won't name names, but we all know who they are, who scream that if you buy coffee, you're ruining your future, that you're literally drinking your retirement. Sethi is the absolute opposite.
He is. He has these 10 rules for a rich life, and rule number 1 is really the mantra for the entire book. Spend extravagantly on the things you love and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't.
That word mercilessly. That is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
It is. It's extreme. It's not cut back a little bit.
No.
It's if you don't care about your car, don't drive a nice, sensible Honda Accord. Drive a 15-year-old Beater. Drive it until the bumper falls off.
Right.
But if you love shoes, go buy the $500 boots. It's about conscious allocation. Most of us just spend moderately on everything, so we end up with a life that's just lukewarm.
We're just bleeding out slowly on things we don't even really care about.
Exactly.
We pay for the streaming service we don't watch, the gym we never go to, the car that's just okay. So we never have the money for the one big thing, like the trip to Japan we actually want.
Exactly. And this connects directly to his rule number 2, which is focus on big wins. We spend hours clipping coupons to save 50 cents on toothpaste, but we won't spend 10 minutes preparing for a salary negotiation that could net us $10,000.
We're playing small ball.
We focus on the minutia, and we totally ignore the tectonic plates under our feet.
And rule number 10, which I think is a great frame for this entire conversation, live life outside the spreadsheet.
Which brings us right back to that sexy versus rich debate, doesn't it?
It does.
We love the spreadsheet because it feels like control. We love tweaking the numbers. But the goal is to set up the system so you don't have to look at the spreadsheet. You just live. You trust the machine you built.
Okay, so let's get into the machinery of this. Because you can't just decide to be rich. You have to. You have to rewire your brain first.
Oh, absolutely.
So segment 1, the psychology of money.
And this is where Sethi shines, honestly. He starts with this analogy that I found really, really striking. He compares financial health to physical health.
The weight loss comparison.
Right. Think about how people gain weight. Nobody wakes up one morning and is suddenly 50 pounds heavier.
No, it creeps up.
It happens ounce by ounce, meal by meal, over years. It's a slow creep. And financial disaster is the exact same. You don't go bankrupt overnight. You go bankrupt one impulse purchase, one missed credit card payment, one ignored bank statement at a time.
But the reaction to both problems is also the same, isn't it? Yeah. We want the magic pill.
We are desperate for the magic pill. In fitness, people will argue to the death about paleo versus keto versus carnivore, or they'll buy these obscure supplements on Amazon made of, I don't know, ground up deer antlers.
Whatever the new fad is.
But they won't do the two things that actually boringly work. Eat less, exercise more.
Because that's hard. And it's boring. And it requires discipline, not just a credit card number.
And in finance, it's identical. We want to find the secret stock. We want to time the market. We want to know if we should buy gold bars or whatever. But we ignore the basics.
Spend less than you earn.
Automate your savings. Invest early. We debate the 1% of complexity just to avoid the 99% of hard work.
Sethi calls this the victim culture. And I have to say, reading this section, he does not pull his punches.
No.
He could be a little abrasive.
He's incredibly abrasive, but he argues it's necessary love. He tells the story about Save $1,000 in 30 Days challenge he ran for his blog readers.
Oh, yeah?
He gave them a list of concrete, proven steps to find money. Negotiate your cable bill, cancel the gym you don't use, sell some junk on eBay. Simple stuff.
Yeah, totally doable things. And what happened?
A huge percentage of people, before they even tried step 1, they just flooded the comments saying, this is impossible.
Oh, well,
you don't understand my situation. I live in a high cost of living city. My boss will never give me a raise.
They defeated themselves before they even started the game.
It's a defense mechanism. Because if I admit that I could save money, but I'm just not doing it, then I'm responsible.
Then it's on me.
I am the problem. But if I say the economy is rigged or the system is against me, then I'm a victim. I don't have to change. It's comfortable to be a victim.
Now, to be fair to the listeners, the system is often rigged.
Oh, yeah.
Banks are predatory. Wages are stagnant in a lot of places.
And Sethi is the first to acknowledge that. He hates the banks more than anyone. We'll get to that. But his point is, complaining about the rain doesn't build you a roof.
Right.
You have to operate within the reality that exists.
There's also this concept of infoglut that plays a huge role here. We aren't just lazy. A lot of the time we're just we're paralyzed.
This is a huge point. It draws on Barry Schwartz's work, The Paradox of Choice. We have access to infinite information now. If you Google best credit card, you get 10 million results. You'd think that would make us smarter consumers.
This makes us anxious.
It freezes us. We're so terrified of picking the second best credit card that we end up picking no credit card at all.
Yeah.
We don't invest because we're scared of picking the wrong fund. We do nothing because we're waiting for perfect information.
Which leads to one of my absolute favorite concepts in the entire book. It's so simple. The 85% solution.
This is the cure for perfectionism. It's beautiful. Sethi's rule is, it is infinitely better to get your financial system 85% right and actually do it
Right now.
than to aim for 100% perfection and do absolutely nothing.
So you don't need the investment fund with the 0.04% expense ratio if finding it takes you 3 years.
No.
Just take the one with 0.05% and start today.
Exactly. Stop researching, start acting. The cost of waiting for perfection is always, always higher than the cost of a slightly imperfect choice.
But there's one more layer of psychology we have to dig through before we get to the tactics. The invisible scripts.
Invisible scripts. It sounds like a spy movie.
It does.
But it's actually much more insidious. These are the beliefs about money that we hold so deeply we don't even realize they are beliefs. We just think they're facts.
And we get them from where?
Usually we inherited them from our parents.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
Rich people are greedy. Money changes people for the worse. We don't talk about money in this house. Investing is basically gambling.
Oh, that last one. I grew up with that last one. The stock market is a casino. Just keep your money in the bank where it's safe.
Right. And if you have that script running in the background of your brain, what do? You avoid the stock market your whole life. You keep your money in a savings account that's losing value to inflation, all while thinking you're being safe.
Wow.
These scripts dictate our behavior without us even knowing it.
Another big one is, I'm just not good with money. Or I'm bad at math.
That is a classic self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself you're bad at money, you will avoid looking at your bank balance because it gives you anxiety. And because you don't look, you overdraw. Because you overdraw, you get a fee, and then you say, see, I knew I was bad with money.
It's a doom loop.
It's a total doom loop. The first step isn't opening a 401k. It's identifying these scripts. You have to catch yourself saying, I can't afford that, and then ask, is that actually true, or is it just that I'm choosing not to prioritize it? You have to rewrite the code before you can run the program.
Okay, so speaking of rewriting code, let's talk about a tool that many people have a very specific and usually very negative script about. Credit cards.
Yes, the plastic devil.
Segment 2. From enemy to weapon. Now, I grew up on Dave Ramsey. I think a lot of people did. And the Ramsey gospel is, plastic is evil. Cut up the cards. Live on cash. Sethi takes that advice, lights it on fire, and throws it out the window.
He really does. He views credit cards as a power tool.
Yeah.
Think about it. Chainsaws are dangerous, right?
Extremely.
If you juggle chainsaws, you're going to have a very bad time. But if you know how to use one, you can cut down a tree in 5 minutes that would take you all day with a handsaw. Sethi wants you to learn to handle the chainsaw.
But before we even get to the perks and the points and all the free travel, we have to talk about the negotiation aspect. Because Sethi tells this story about his dad, the Indian negotiator. That is just, it's painfully relatable if you have frugal parents.
It's a classic. His dad decides to buy a car, and this isn't a walk-in, sign the papers kind of deal. This is a siege. He spends 5 straight days grinding the dealer down. Every single line item, every penny, he's winning the war.
And then?
At the very, very end, the dealer refuses to throw in a set of free floor mats, a $50 value maybe.
Right.
And Sethi's dad, he leaves the deal.
Over floor mats after a week of work.
And Sethi uses this to illustrate the difference between being cheap and being efficient or frugal. His dad spent 40 hours of his life to save a few $100. That's a terrible hourly rate.
It's awful.
Sethi says you should negotiate, yes, but use leverage. Don't sit in the dealership. Email 20 dealers, make them bid against each other, and pick the winner. Be smart, not just stubborn.
And that smart negotiation applies directly to credit cards.
Yeah.
But the big win with credit cards, it isn't even the points, is it?
No, it's not the points, it's not the perks, it's the score.
The credit score.
This is the boring, unsexy number that rules your entire financial life. And most people just do not understand how much money a bad score actually costs them.
Okay, walk us through the math on that, because I think people see 700 or 600 and think, it's just a number.
It's not just a number, it's the price you pay for entry. Let's say you buy a house and take out a $200,000 mortgage.
Okay.
If you have a top-tier score, say 760 or above, you get the best rate. Let's call it 3.5%. If you have a meh score like 620, the bank sees you as a risk, they're going to charge you maybe 5%.
So 1.5% difference. Doesn't sound like that much.
Over a 30-year mortgage, that 1.5% difference means you will pay over $70,000 more in interest.
$7,000.
That's a luxury car. That's a college education. That's 2 years of salary for some people. Poof, gone. Just because you didn't optimize a 3-digit number. That is why Sethi calls this a big win. You can skip all the lattes you want. You will never save 70 grand as fast as you can by just fixing your credit score.
So let's fix it. Sethi lays out what I'm calling the 6 commandments of credit cards. And some of these are incredibly tactical. Number 1 is obvious, but critical. Pay off your balance regularly.
It's non-negotiable. If you are paying interest on a credit card, you are losing the game. Full stop. You need to be what the banks call a deadbeat.
I just love that they call responsible people deadbeats. It's so telling.
It tells you everything you need to know about their business model, right? They want you to fail. They want you to carry a balance. If you pay in full every month, they make 0 interest off you. Be a deadbeat.
Commandment number 2, waive fees.
This is the first test of your negotiation skills. If your card has an annual fee or if you slip up and get a late fee, pick up the phone.
And just ask.
Just ask. Sethi gives literal scripts for this. It's basically, hi, I'm a longtime customer. I see this fee. I'd like you to waive it.
Does that actually work? It feels way too simple.
It works more than 50% of the time. Think about it. It costs a bank hundreds of dollars in marketing to acquire a new customer. Are they really going to lose you over a $35 late fee? No.
But you have to ask. They're not going to volunteer.
Okay, commandment 3 is for people who are carrying debt right now. Negotiate your APR.
Same exact logic. Call them. I've been with you for 3 years. I see other banks are offering lower rates. What can you do to lower my APR? If you could drop your rate from 18% to 14%, that saves you hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars while you pay off your debt.
Now, number 4 is one I definitely messed up in my 20s. Keep cards active.
Yeah, this is so counterintuitive. People pay off a card and then they think, okay, I should close this account to be safe.
Right, get rid of the temptation.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
15% of your credit score is length of history. If you close your oldest card, you just erased all that history. Your score drops.
See, what should you do? Just cut it up, but don't close the account.
Better yet, put your Netflix subscription on it, set it to auto pay from your checking, and then throw the physical card in a drawer. Keep that history alive.
Okay, commandment 5 is the real hacker move. Get more credit. And a huge disclaimer here. Do not do this if you have any spending impulse issues.
Right.
But if you are responsible, you want to call your bank and ask for a credit limit increase.
Why? I mean, doesn't that just tempt you to spend more?
It's about the utilization ratio. 30% of your score is based on how much of your available credit you are using.
Okay.
So if you owe $1,000 and your total limit is $2,000, you're using 50%. That looks risky to the algorithm. Your score goes down.
Got it.
But if you call and get your limit raised to $5,000, suddenly that same $1,000 debt is only 20% utilization. You haven't paid off a single penny, but your credit score goes up because you look safer to the bank.
That is the game right there.
Yeah.
Just using their own rules against them.
It's pure offense. And finally, commandment 6, use the secret perks.
The fine print stuff.
Read the fine print. Extended warranties, car rental insurance. Sethi tells a story about using a credit card concierge to track down sold-out concert tickets. These are free assistance you are paying for but not using.
So we've got the psychology locked in. We've weaponized our credit cards. But what if we're already in the hole? What if someone is listening to this and thinking, that's great, guys, but I have $10,000 in debt and I'm drowning?
Then we have to move to segment 3, crushing debt. And the first step is dealing with the ostrich effect.
Head in the sand.
Exactly. Most people with debt don't know their exact number. They know it's a lot or too much, but they don't know if it's $12,450 or $15,000.
Because looking at the number makes it real.
And when it's real, it hurts.
So step 1 is just opening the envelope or logging in.
Step 1 is opening the envelope, making a simple spreadsheet, and staring the beast in the eye. You cannot defeat an enemy you cannot see.
And once we see it, we have to understand the trap. The book uses this iPhone example, which actually made me nauseous when I read it.
It should. It's the minimum payment trap. Let's say you buy a new iPhone for $1,000 on a credit card. And the credit card company, being the helpful friends they are, they set your minimum payment at something like $20.
Which feels so affordable. Oh yeah, I can swing $20 a month.
Right. But if you only pay that minimum and your interest rate is average, say 18 or 20%, it won't take you a year or two to pay it off.
How long?
It will take you over a decade, and by the time you're done, you will have paid nearly double the cost of the phone. You're paying $2,000 for a phone that is now completely obsolete and sitting in a landfill somewhere.
That is their entire business model. They want you on that hook forever. So how do we break out? There's this big debate between the two main methods, snowball versus avalanche.
Ah, yes. The Dave Ramsey versus the math nerd debate.
Break them down for us.
The snowball method, which Ramsey popularized, says you list your debts from smallest balance to largest. You ignore the interest rates completely.
Ignore them.
Ignore them. Pay the minimums on everything, but throw every spare penny you have at the smallest debt.
And the logic there is psychological momentum, right?
It's all psychological. If you have a $500 medical bill, you can kill that thing off pretty quickly. And when it's gone, you feel this rush of victory. I did it. Then you take that momentum and tackle the next one. It's about behavioral reinforcement.
Okay. And the avalanche, or the high interest method.
This is the mathematically correct method. You list your debts by interest rate, highest to lowest. You attack the 24% APR card first, regardless of the balance.
And why?
Because mathematically, this saves you the most money over time because you're eliminating the most expensive debt first.
So which one does Sethi recommend?
He says. It doesn't matter.
Really? Even though he's a total numbers guy?
He's a numbers guy, but he's also a psychology guy. And he argues that people spend weeks, maybe months, agonizing over snowball versus avalanche. They read articles, they make spreadsheets, and during those weeks, they pay off nothing.
Analysis paralysis, again.
It's everywhere. His advice is, pick one, flip a coin if you have to. Just pick a path and start walking. The best method is the one you will actually stick to. Spend 5 minutes to decide, then automate the payments and get on with your life.
He also brings negotiation back into the debt picture, right?
Yes. If you have a plan, if you can say, I am going to pay $300 a month to clear this balance, call the credit card company.
And tell them that.
Tell them, I am getting serious about my debt. I'm looking at offers for 0% balance transfers from other banks. I would prefer to stay with you. Can you lower my APR to 12% to help me pay this off faster?
That feels really bold. Telling a bank you might leave them.
But banks are businesses. If you default on your debt, they get nothing. If you transfer your balance, they get nothing. If they lower your rate, they get something. You have more leverage than you think you do.
What about student loans? That's the big dark cloud for an entire generation.
It is. And federal loans are trickier because the rates are often fixed by law. You can't usually negotiate the rate down just by asking.
So what can you do?
You can restructure the terms.
Like changing the timeline of the loan.
Exactly. If you are drowning in your monthly payments and you can't make rent, you can call the lender and switch from a 10-year repayment plan to a 20-year or even a 25-year plan.
And that lowers the monthly bill.
Significantly. It frees up a lot of cash flow so you can breathe. Now, the catch, and it's a big catch, is that you will pay significantly more in interest over the life of the loan.
Because you're paying for way longer.
You're paying for 25 years instead of 10, so it's a safety valve, not a saving strategy.
Got it.
Use it if you are in danger of defaulting. But if you have extra cash, Sethi points out that even an extra $50 a month toward the principal can shave years off the loan, years of your life back.
And there it is again, that concept of a big win. $50 doesn't feel like a fortune, but over 10 or 20 years, the compound effect is just massive.
It's all about leverage.
Okay, let's move to where we actually keep this money. Segment 4, beating the banks.
And Sethi frames this almost as warfare. The first line is something like, the banks are not your friends.
And looking at the headlines over the last decade, it's really hard to argue with him. I mean, Wells Fargo opening millions of fake accounts just to hit sales quotas.
It's systemic. The overdraft fee industry alone generates over $30 billion a year. That is billions of dollars taken specifically from the people who have the least money. It is predatory by its very design.
So Sethi suggests something he calls the 30-second test.
Right. If you walk into a bank or you call them and within 30 seconds they treat you like a nuisance or they try to upsell you a product you don't need, leave.
Just walk out.
Just walk out. Believe them. If they treat you badly on day 1, they will treat you worse on day 1,000.
So we need to fire our bad banks.
Yeah.
But how do we structure the good ones? Sethi is very specific about this hub model.
He treats your checking account as the hub. This is Grand Central Station. All your income flows in here, but the key is it doesn't stay here.
And he has a specific recommendation for this, right? The actual bank.
He loves Charles Schwab Investor Checking.
Not a sponsor of this deep dive, by the way.
No, but maybe they should be. He recommends them because they have no minimums, no fees, and this is the killer feature unlimited ATM fee rebates worldwide.
That is a total game changer. You know that feeling when you're at a concert or a bar and the only ATM charges you $6? And you stand there doing the mental math of whether you really need the cash?
It completely eliminates that anxiety. You just take the cash. Schwab refunds the $6 at the end of the month. It's a huge, big win for convenience and peace of mind.
So the checking is the hub. Where does the money go next?
To the savings account. But here is the critical psychological hack. The savings account must be at a different bank.
Why? Isn't it just easier to have them both in the same app?
That's the problem. It's too easy. If you log into your app to check your grocery balance and you see a nice fat number sitting in your savings, you start to think, oh, look at me, I'm rich. I can afford that sushi dinner tonight.
Guilty. I have absolutely done that.
You mentally spend that money. If the savings are at a separate bank, say an online high-yield savings account like Ally or Marcus or Capital One 360, you don't see it every day.
Out of sight, out of mind.
And if you want to withdraw it, the transfer takes 2 to 3 days. That friction is intentional. It prevents impulse raids on your savings. It protects you from yourself.
And these online banks, they pay way higher interest rates too.
Way higher, because they don't have to pay for thousands of physical branches and tellers. Their overhead is lower.
But Sethi also warns against rate chasing.
Yes. Don't be the person who switches banks every 3 months because one bank raised their rate from 2.2% to 2.3%.
Why not? I mean, isn't more interest always better?
Technically, yes. But you have to calculate the actual dollars. On a $10,000 balance, a 0.1% difference is $10 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really going to fill out new paperwork, change your direct deposits, and reset all your passwords for the price of a sandwich?
But that way it sounds ridiculous.
It is. Pick a good bank, set it up, and move on. Don't major in the minor things.
And speaking of banks trying to take our money, let's just revisit overdraft fees. Because Sethi treats these as basically voluntary donations that you can ask for back.
They are almost always negotiable. If you get hit with a $35 overdraft fee, you call the bank immediately.
Give us the script.
Hi, I noticed an overdraft fee on my account. I've been a customer for 5 years, and this was an oversight. I'd like you to waive it.
And what if they say no? Sorry, policy is policy.
You don't take the first no. You ask, I understand that's the policy, but what can you do to help me? Or you ask to speak to a supervisor.
What can you do to help me? That is such a powerful phrase. It's not aggressive, but it forces them to problem solve.
It flips the dynamic. You aren't begging, you are collaborating. And again, most of the time, they will waive it to keep a good customer happy.
Okay, so we stopped the bleeding, we've optimized our accounts, now we get to the engine. Segment 5, investing.
This is where you actually get rich.
Yeah.
Everything else we talked about was just housekeeping. Important housekeeping, but still, investing is the growth.
And we have to start with why saving is not enough. Because so many people think, I put money in my savings account every month, I'm good.
You are not good. You are slowly, quietly going broke because of inflation.
The silent killer of wealth.
Think of inflation as a leaky bucket. Every year, your money loses about 2 to 3% of its buying power. If your bank is paying you 0.5% in interest and inflation is 3%, you are losing 2.5% of your wealth every single year just by standing still.
That is terrifying.
It should be. The only way to beat inflation is to invest in assets that grow faster than inflation. For most of us, that's the stock market. And the magic ingredient is compound interest.
Which Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world.
He did, and the book uses this example of Smart Sally versus Dumb Dan to illustrate this. And honestly, this example is so unfair it makes you want to cry, but it proves the point perfectly.
Okay, walk us through it.
Okay, Smart Sally starts investing early. She's 35 years old. She invests $200 a month for just 10 years.
$200. Not a crazy amount.
No, she does this until she's 45. And then she stops. She never puts another penny into her investment account. She just leaves the money there to grow until she retires at 65.
Okay, so 10 years of investing and then nothing. What about Dumb Dan?
Dumb Dan waits. He enjoys his money in his 30s. He starts investing at age 45, but he decides he needs to catch up. So he invests $100 a month for 20 years, all the way until he's 65.
Wait, let me just check the math on that. Sally put in $200 times 12 months times 10 years. That's $24,000 total principal.
Right.
And Dan put in $100 times 12 months times 20 years. That's also $24,000.
Correct. They invested the exact same amount of their own money out of pocket.
So who wins?
Sally wins. And it is not even close. Assuming a pretty standard 8% return, Sally ends up with something like $60,000 more than Dan.
She has more money, despite stopping her investing 20 years before him.
Because her money had 10 extra years to compound. The very first dollars you invest are the most important soldiers in your army because they have the longest time to work for you.
Wow. That is the lesson right there. Time in the market beats timing the market.
It beats everything. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is today.
And the easiest, lowest hanging fruit for investing for most people is the 401k.
Specifically, the company match. This is literally free money. If your employer says, we will match 100% of your contributions up to 3% of your salary, and you don't contribute that 3%, you are effectively taking a pay cut.
You are declining a raise that is sitting on the table.
You are walking past a briefcase of cash on the sidewalk every 2 weeks. Sethi notes that only about 1 in 5 people actually contribute enough to get their full company match. That is a national tragedy.
It really is.
And I know people listening right now are thinking, but I can't afford to put 3% away. I have rent. I have student loans.
So what's the answer to that?
The answer is start with 1%. Start with $50 a month. The amount matters so much less than the habit. Just open the account. Set up the auto transfer. Prove to yourself that the money disappears from your paycheck and you don't die. You adjust. Then in 6 months, you bump it up to 2%, then 3%. You just build the muscle over time.
It's the infrastructure again, isn't it? Once the pipe is built, you can turn up the water pressure later.
Right.
But you have to build the pipe first.
Precisely.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from psychology to credit card hacks to banking structures to the math of investing.
You've built the whole house from the foundation up.
So let's recap the big wins, because that's Sethi's whole point, right?
Yeah.
Focus on these instead of the minutia.
Right. Instead of worrying about the price of avocados, focus on, number 1, automating your accounts. Create a system where money flows where it needs to go while you're sleeping.
Number 2.
Optimizing your credit score. It's the single biggest lever that can save you tens of thousands of dollars on a house or a car. Negotiating. Call your bank, call your credit card company, call your cable company, get the fees waived, get the rates lowered.
I'm for
Investing early. Get that company match and let compound interest do all the heavy lifting for you for the next 30 years.
And this brings us right back around to the beginning. The whole point of all this, the rich life.
We've done all this work. We've optimized the entire system. Why did we do it?
Not to have a high score in a bank app.
No, it's to fund the things that actually matter to you. Sethi ends with this thought about hypocrisy that I absolutely love. He says, we are all hypocrites about money, and we should be.
Explain that. Because hypocrisy is usually a bad word.
He means financial hypocrisy. It's okay to be the person who buys generic toilet paper and eats leftovers for lunch every single day, but then drops $2,000 on a front row concert ticket for your favorite band.
That's not being inconsistent, that's being targeted.
Exactly. Other people will look at that and say, how can you afford that ticket? You're so cheap with lunch. And the answer is, I can afford the ticket because I'm cheap with lunch.
That is conscious spending. That's leaning into the things you love, being cheap on the things you hate so you can be rich on the things you love.
That is the whole essence of the rich life. It's autonomy. It's you deciding what matters to you and then aggressively funding it while mercilessly cutting everything else.
So here is the challenge for our listeners. We want you to leave this deep dive with a little bit of homework.
Good homework. Fun homework.
I want you to identify your rich life item. What is the one thing, travel, shoes, charity, convenience, whatever it is, that you love so much, you wish you could double your spending on it?
Write it down. Make it real. Make it concrete.
And then the other side of the coin. Identify 3 things in your life that you are currently spending money on that you honestly do not care about.
And then cut them mercilessly. Cancel the subscription. Sell the car. Stop buying the brand name clothes you don't even like. And then divert that money to the thing you actually love.
Stop playing defense. Stop apologizing for what you love. Go build your system.
And go live your rich life.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next one.